been working, the last month and a half to prepare, for this Bahama trip. It's been a lot of input both ways with the players and coaching staff, and they from where we started to where we are today, we've gotten a lot better, especially from a conditioning standpoint. And I know it's early, but I just wanted them to get a feel of who I am as a coach in terms of my conditioning side of the basketball. I mean, we got to be in better shape, I think, than we were last season. So that's why I'm really pushing the conditioning, because of the way we want to play on both ends of the floor. We really got to be conditioned to move around and run up and down the floor. So in that regard, I think we're starting to improve there, and they're starting to pick up some of the things that I've added from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. And it's kind of nice to see, but we still got a long way to go right now.
We'll start with Alex Bozich and then Mike Schumann.
Hi, Mike. I'm curious defensively, with the change kind of going from what the team ran last year to what you're trying to do defensively. Has there been any challenges that you've noticed so far, and any habits maybe that they previously had that you've had to work with them to change?
Well, again, I don't knock, what they did last year is what they did. I mean, I got to concentrate on, my style from a defensive standpoint. My thing is, if the ball has been guarded tight and, everybody's in a support position to help if there's a breakdown, I want a body on a body. I don't want guys, taking possessions off begging for help defensively. If you own the ball, that's your guy, you got to guard the ball. And, there's certain directions where we want the ball directed. If somebody's beat, there's got to be help. And then that guy helps, you got to help him from helping the guy who got beat. So, I mean, everybody's got to be on the string. So we're working on rotations and mainly just keeping heat on the basketball, in terms of who's guarding. Pick and rolls, we're trying to be up and be aggressive in that area. But again, what they did last year was last year. This is totally new year for us.
Mike and then Jeff Rabjohns.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about recruiting. This was, your first time out on the road the last couple months looking at high school kids. What was it hard for you after so long in the NBA to kind of recalibrate your expectations of what you're looking for? And what else did you learn out there?
Well, there's no question the level of play is not the same. But at the end of the day, you still got to evaluate talent. And, for me, it was, I had a great time out there. I saw a lot of people I knew, but just to be able to evaluate young talent and just see where, the level of play in certain areas where you go is totally different. Some areas guys can shoot the ball, and in some areas they can't shoot the ball. There are areas where guys can't handle it as well as certain other areas that you go to and watch basketball. So basketball is being played differently all over the United States. But at the end of the day, we got to evaluate players that we think fit what we're trying to accomplish here at Indiana. And, there's a lot of talent out there, and, getting players to commit is the next thing. But, there are a number of guys that we're still trying to get for next season. But for the most part, recruiting was fun. It was grueling and tiresome at times, because you sit in the gym sometimes from 8 a.m. till 12, 1 o'clock. Then I got to get out of the gym, go jump on a plane and go to another site. So it's up and down and watching a lot of talented players.
Jeff and then Zach Osterman.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, Coach. Appreciate your time. I had two questions for you. We just had the NBA draft. What did you see as far as what kind of Big Ten players got drafted? And how did you think the Big Ten did in the draft this year?
Well, I didn't watch the draft that closely. I read it in the paper. I know we had, I think, 7 players from the Big Ten that got drafted. I think 1 in the first round. I think the other 6 were, later in the second round. But, at the end of the day, we're still in the hunt in the Big Ten for players getting drafted. I think the most was the SEC. They had 10 NBA draft picks. But again, the draft is what it is. My focus now is trying to find players that can make the next jump. That's going to be important for your program as well as we move forward. And anybody you recruit, they want to know, can you get them to the next level anyway? So, and my thing is, if you're good enough and you're willing to work, you can get to the next level. So it kind of goes both ways.
And second question, how are you going to go about kind of like installing? You talked about 4 out, 1 in as a general concept for your offense. Are you going to try to install a lot of things before the season starts and get good at them during the season? Or are you going to kind of like, okay, we're going to add A, B, and C, then we're going to add D? Are there going to be stair steps that you add to your offense as the season goes along?
Well, we've been doing a little bit of everything. The main focus the last month and a half has basically been on defense. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see, how we react when we play someone else. This team we're going to play over at Mega roster team, BC Mega in the Bahamas. They're a pretty good basketball team. Excuse me. And so we'll be tested. And I'm anxious to see where we are from a defensive standpoint. Offensively, things will come along. I've added some things to get ready for this game. And again, when we're scrimmaging and we break down the tape after our scrimmages, there's just there's a lot of room for improvement, man, in terms of execution, because my standard of execution is high. I don't want guys throwing the ball all over the gym. I want them getting shots, good shots, and I want them executing. And then defensively, you got to be held accountable, man, to defend the basketball and rebound it. So all of that goes hand in hand when you're trying to put a team together. But we just kind of got baby steps right now in terms of, getting where we need to go, knowing that there's a long way to go.
Zach and then Tyler.
Coach, I guess when you think about not just the games, but you talk about breaking down film, scrimmage film, things like that, just how valuable is that practice film going to be for you and your staff? Kind of the practices you're allowed to get into building up to the Bahamas trip as you start moving into the preseason in the fall?
It's very valuable because I've seen from the time we started to where we are today some improvement. And I've always felt that film is a major teaching tool for young players when you're trying to build a program. And we still got a long way to go, man. I mean, the positive behind the month and a half for me is that they're starting to pick up some of the things that I'm throwing at them. And that means a lot when you're trying to build a team. I don't have to keep repeating myself. I mean, they're making mistakes, and that's just a part of the game. And, when they make mistakes, I try to reinforce that they shouldn't, do the things that they're doing. And then when we show them on film, to try to, show them the areas where they are making the mistakes, you try to see the next practice if they've improved once they get back out on the floor and not doing the same thing over and over again. So those are the things that I look at from a coaching standpoint. But again, we have a long way to go still.
Tyler and then Dustin.
Hey, Coach, I hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that has specifically really impressed you this summer, or you feel like has made really good strides?
I think Trace has. He's one player that was always intriguing. I mean, that was why when I took the job, I was desperately trying to get him to stay, and we were able to get that done. But from the the time we started to where we are now, he's made some improvement in terms of how he's running and playing. He's playing to me much aggressive than he did in some of the tapes that I watched last season. And we're going to need him to be that guy, the guy that plays aggressive and if he can average 20 and double rebounds, that's a major bonus again for our ball club. I think Rob Fennessy has kind of changed his game a little bit too. I kind of like what he's done from the time we started to where he is today. But I like the makeup of our ball club in general. I just think we got a good group of guys that are working hard and doing everything that we're asking them to do, and that's all you can ask for from a coaching standpoint, is players that are, that come to the gym with energy and happy about being there and putting in the work, because that's what it's going to take to get back to the top, I think.
Dustin and then Tom Brew.
Coach, two questions that I wanted to ask about. You mentioned Rob Fennessy. How has he changed his game? What's different about what he's doing? And you also mentioned BC Mega. What do you just think about that team? What do you know about them? And what kind of challenge do you think they present? What do you think they can do for you guys playing them at this stage?
Well, I think Rob has improved. His confidence is a little bit better, I think, than it was last year. And, I'm just trying to get Rob and Xavier, young Christian, to learn how to be point guards and run your team, when they got the ball in their hand. And I think Rob has stood out a little bit in terms of where he was a year ago, in terms of being more relaxed and comfortable and playing. And, I'm going to need him to stay there because, and continue to grow, because that position is important, because a lot of times the ball will be in his hands and Xavier's hands as well. And you need them to be able to make the right decisions when the ball is in their hands. With the Mega team, we are watching film on them. They're a big team. They're a team that plays well together. They got a pretty good little point guard that kind of directs traffic. So we really gonna have to control him and put heat on him when he's got the ball in his hand. But they got a lot of shooters, a lot of big guys. They play 4-round-1 as well, and so it'll be a test for our ball club to see how we compete and see how we can play at a high level. I mean, that's kind of what I'm anxious to get to the Bahamas to see where we are as a team.
Tom Brew, then Kevin Brockway.
Hey, Mike, it's good to see you.
You too.
The four new guys, the four transfers, none of us have obviously had a chance to see much of any of them yet, but can you kind of fill us in behind closed doors, what you think of them so far and what you like, or maybe want to see them get better at quickly?
Well, again, they're trying to fill me out as well as the other players on the team. I think Miller's trying to find his niche. The one thing about Miller is he can make shots, and I just got to put him in the right positions where he's successful to make them. Xavier's just trying to learn how to be he's a point guard, man, but there's a lot that comes with being a point guard. So I've probably been in his ass more than anybody on the team, because I just think that position is so valuable in terms of where you go as a ball club. Young Tamar, Bates, he's a typical freshman. The good thing about him is he's put on about 12 pounds from the time he's come in here, and that's a bonus because he was real light in the butt, and we needed him to pick up some weight. But he's a cocky kid that's not scared, and I kind of like that in him. So Big Mike is who he is. He bangs, and I think that's what has made Trace a little bit more competitive, because he's got a bigger guy now that can bang and do things down low when he gets the ball. So competition in practice has been pretty competitive, and in order to be a great team, you got to have competition, man, and guys competing against one another. No starting position is set in stone, except for the big fella Trey. So everybody's just working right now, trying to figure it out.
What do you think about Parker Stewart so far?
Parker's been solid. He went through early on. He went through a stretch where he was probably the best player, and then he just took a back seat. And now I'm trying to retool him and get his ass back to playing how he was playing early when we first started. But he's doing fine.
Kevin, and then we'll wrap up with Jeff Rabjohns.
Yeah, Coach. Hey, I was you had talked the last time we talked about in terms of being able to be hands-on and get to work with these guys. How do you think they're picking up some of your concepts, particularly on the defensive end of the floor?
They're picking them up. My thing is I think when you put a defensive concept in place, you give them the general stuff, but there's always what we call the what ifs. You're going to have the what ifs a lot when you're playing basketball, maybe on offense or defense, and mainly defense. I can say we're going to play this pick and roll a certain way, but what if it doesn't happen that way? Are you going to just quit and say, well, it didn't work and we give up and succumb to a bucket? No, you got to play the what ifs too. So those are the things that I'm trying to teach, as we go along in our pick and roll coverage, our post up game. When there's a breakdown, somebody beating somebody on a baseline drive, do you just watch and let him come in and lay it up? No, you gotta go and stop the problem. And then you, after you stop the problem, you got to scramble out of the problem and get to where the ball might take you. So, there's a lot of things that has to be taught that we as a staff, we've got a lot of stuff in this short period of time. And that's why I'm very encouraged in that they picking things up and are getting better from the time we started and where we are today.
Last question for Jeff Rabjohns.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious, who have been your best 4 or 5 offensive players so far to start?
Oh, it is very, without a doubt, Trace has been, but Parker at one time has been pretty good. Xavier, Tamar hadn't been bad. Galloway has been pretty good. And then Rob has played pretty well. On both ends of the ball, which is, kind of nice to see. So, I haven't given them a lot offensively because I just feel like, that will come. We just got to get solid defensively because I truly believe if we can rest our hat on the defensive end in terms of defending and rebounding the ball, we'll give ourselves a chance to be in every game that we play. So that's where my focus has been. But we have put in some offensive things and they're executing and trying to learn it and put it to work once we scrimmage and play. So we still got a long way to go, gentlemen. We just do. It's early right now.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks again. Guys, have a good weekend.